Okay, here's some help with 4-3 puzzles, twisters, and teasers, graphically speaking. The directions are: use the graph to answer each question. Circle the letter next to your answer. So this graph is telling us a story, just like we did several examples like this in class today. First, we want to look at the title of the graph, Jenny's distance from home. Then we look at the labels for the axes. The y-axis is distance from home in miles, and the x-axis is time. So over time, as time passes, Jenny is moving some number of miles, traveling some number of miles from home or back towards her home, depending on the points on the graph. So at point A, y equals 0. So at the starting point, where time equals 0 and distance equals 0, she's at home. Then as she moves to point B, some time passes and she's traveled 6 miles from home. From point B to C, her distance doesn't change, so time passes and she's somewhere for some amount of time, but she's not moving. Then from point C to D, again she's traveling away from her house, and the difference between point C and D would be 6 to 10, so 4 miles. So she traveled 4 more miles, and then she stayed stationary for this amount of time from D to E. Then from point E to F, she moved back towards her home, and looking at the graph, looks like F is at about 8, so it looks like she traveled 2 miles back towards her house. Then from F to G, for this amount of time, she stayed stationary, and then from G to H, she traveled the rest of the distance, 8 miles back to her house. So I'm not going to do all these problems, but let's take a look at number 5. Which of the following could describe what Jenny is doing between points G and H? So from G to H, her distance is changing. Looks like she went from about 8 miles away from home back to 0. So she traveled towards her house, 8 miles towards her house. This first answer choice says Jenny is traveling 8 miles to reach a store. We know once she gets to point H, she's 0 miles from home, which means she's at home. So I don't think she's traveling to reach a store. Answer choice O says Jenny stopped at a store that is 8 miles from home. Well, if she stopped, the distance would be, we'd have a horizontal line. The distance wouldn't be changing, but the distance definitely is changing. And answer choice L says Jenny is traveling 8 miles to return home. That's exactly what's happening between G and H. She was 8 miles away from home, and then she's 0 miles from home, so that means she's at home. So she traveled 8 miles to return home. So the answer for problem 5 is L. So everywhere you see a 5 on the bottom, you put the letter L right there. Okay, see you in the morning.